It is a pleasure to be here in Zaragoza again in these facilities. I would like to show you the state of the art in technologies so as to digitize our viticulture and to get more information about our vineyards and to be able to do a more sustainable agriculture and winemaking, as Eva was saying. Well, we need to consider the situation on an European level. We live in the framework of the Green Deal, where Europe is promoting a greener, a more sustainable culture. We need to reduce our inputs and our pesticides, of course, our fertilizers, the use of fertilizers, and we need to promote the development of ecological viticulture. Therefore, if we want to do things in this regard, we need to face or to walk towards digital viticulture or forget about a more traditional viticulture. We need to make decisions based on data such as the ones we're taking in the field of medicine today. Recently, we published this review. Gianni was mentioning it before. You can download it for free, where you can find the main innovations and technologies that can be used in digital agriculture today, or viniculture. Sorry. How digital winemaking works, intelligent winemaking. It is about getting data, images, data from different sources. It is also about processing this enormous amount of images to implement it from the predictive models, as our colleagues were saying before. And out of these models, we need to obtain information about production, the health of the vineyard, etc., and also to implement the decisions coming from this information. Forget about the calendars and base yourselves on objective information. Our group was a pioneer in the development of one of the main digital tools. We were the developers of this app, Vitis Flower, which was able to count the number of flowers in the conditions of on-the-field conditions. This is one example, but all the wineries, the whole sector wants to develop things that can be implemented in a more simple way that can facilitate image taking. And this is why we implemented this platform, which is a multi-sensory platform with different technologies for a full monitoring of the vineyard with the vegetative development, productivity, etc. Technologies and sensors that are available today. Let's speak about some of them very quickly. You can see here the main non-invasive technologies that can be used, from spectroscopy, fluorescence, LIDAR, artificial vision, thermography, multispectral images. But I would like to focus on the most important one for me, or powerful one, which is hyperspectral images. All these technologies can be coupled to different sensors or devices that have different uses and classifications. I'm not going to get to delve into this because it would require a long time of explanations. But I invite you to pay attention to those. There are many sensors today that can be assembled into different vehicles, agricultural, aerial vehicles, satellites. But many times these technologies are rather similar. I mean, we can assemble photo camera that can be portable, or we can have it in our mobile phone because we have it in our pocket, but we can put it on a vehicle, a drone, a plane, or anything really. Those sensors can go mounted or assembled on different platforms. The drone is not a sensor, or a satellite or a plane is not a sensor. It's a platform where we can assemble different sensors. There are not technologies, not better or worse technologies or sensors. We tend to classify these things in a black and white kind of vision, and we need to see always what is the best platform for the goal that we have. And there are portable sensors that can be used manually from photo camera, a sensor, an app, or different types of sensors. In our mobile phone, we have different sensors that we can use, from an altimeter or an LGV sensor, which is a photo camera in the end. And in the future, we will see the development of hyperspectral cameras, or cameras that are able to analyze the compounds of plants that can indicate future diseases. So technology as we know it is really advancing at huge steps. One of the most important topics in terms of robotics, our group was a leader, a pioneer, when it came to participating in different robotics projects, terrestrial robotics, where we tried to assemble different sensors to monitor our vineyards, the content of anthocyanins or the hydric content. In Italy, I know that Gatti and colleagues of the University of Piacenza are here, and they developed a robot for the pruning, and they are able to identify the stumps or the canes to facilitate an alternative to the use of herbicides as well, that we're always concerned about. And the most important novelty in terms of robotics is this robot coming from Japan, which is able to apply phytosanitary products in an unmanned way. It comes from Asia, and the first demonstrations have been conducted in France. As I was saying before, apart from the terrestrial platforms, we have aerial platforms, drones, planes, satellites. Our group was also a pioneer in 2008, goodness me, 15 years ago, on the use of drones to monitor the vegetative and the hydric status in our vineyards. And this was already 15 years ago in La Rioja, in collaboration with the CSIC, which is, the Sustainable Institute of Agronomics in Cordoba. CSIC is the main scientific council in Spain. Well, what do? Well, we have remote detection or telesensing, and we need to think about the spatial resolution, that is the pixel size, which is the minimum unit. We see different examples of pixels. We see when the pixels are too large, we don't even see the Alps in Italy. So this is the spatial resolution, and this is an aspect that we need to consider. We were saying that the new satellites can have a resolution of 0.5 meter or some meters of spatial resolution. There are many satellites now that are orbiting around the Earth, and they have different applications. I think that this is more important when we want to monitor large areas, large extensions and surfaces, but especially on a vegetative level, when the vegetative status interests us in a plot. And this is more oriented towards viticulture. What are the parameters that we can measure? I've been working in our Televitis group in the Rioja University. One of the most serious problems that we have in our world agriculture is the place in wood. To be able to detect them, identify them, we have developed a patent where we have an algorithm where we can detect early, not on level of vineyard, but at the level of stains in the leaves. We can detect this disease. So I think we will be able to detect these diseases at at an earlier stage. We're also working towards the identification of mildew at an early stage. This is a problem in many areas of the world. We have been collaborating in a European group to monitor and quantify this disease that is causing a lot of harm in our winemaking. Here you can see an example on how to use artificial intelligence for the detection and differentiation of the symptoms of different plagues and diseases. So for some experts, they can be even similar. You can see an example between the yellow spider and the yellow mitted, Another concern of all of us is how to evaluate the composition of grapes. Normally, we take 1 or 2 samples from the truck or the lorry that is carrying the grapes, and they serve as an example of the vineyard or the ensemble of vineyards that we have in our winery. We have tried to develop non-invasive quick systems that allow us to monitor the whole vineyard plant by plant, as I said, quickly and non-invasively, scanning the vineyard. This was also a pioneer work published recently, and how by using hyperspectral images mounted with a camera mounted or assembled on a vehicle, we could get information on the composition of grapes on 2 important parameters, such as sugars and anthocyanins. We could see different dates during the grape maturity process, and we observe how there is a great variability, both globally and spatially, within a small vineyard, which is the plot that you have here, which is around 1 hectare size. When we take a sample, like 100 or 200 grapes of a vineyard, and we take them to a laboratory, we can conduct a very rigorous analysis. But is this analysis or this composition representative of the rest of the vineyard? This means that in our conditions there are great variabilities in our plots. Another thing is the performance of the yield of the vineyard. We have been using another approach, which is the use of proximal sensors, and by using artificial vision to try to assess not only the vegetative state, but to count the grapes, both the visible grapes and to estimate those that we don't see. And this is the big challenge. I mean, being able to estimate from using AI techniques how we can calculate what we don't see. We have been working on this for several years. We're one of the benchmark groups on an international level.
We started on the flowers, and then we continued at the level, more operational level of the vineyard in general. Another subject that I'd like to introduce is the study of microclimate, the radiation on the berries, because temperature is key for their ripening and the biosynthesis and the decomposition of biophenols compounds. So this would help us make decisions about separations of harvests and to optimize vinification. Here you can see an example of how through these techniques we are able to identify certain parameters such as cluster exposure, green leaves, yellow wilted leaves, or canopy porosity. Another concern, of course, all over the world, but more particularly in Spain, is the use of water in an optimized way. We have to be more efficient because agriculture demands about 80% of the usage of water. So we need to try to use less water and in a better way, in a more sustainable way, making our viticulture a more sustainable sector. We think that one of the most efficient technologies that we can use in our sector is thermography, whether using, well, you know, it is a technology that allows us to estimate temperature on any object, such as the human body, but also the plant's temperature. So the idea is when the plant is stressed out, the stomas are closed, so temperature is higher. So this change in temperature can be observed using thermography, which is an indicator of the health of the leaf, both at the terrestrial level and the aerial level, assembling thermic detectors on drones. This is a real example from La Rioja vineyard, where you can see the different temperatures on the plot. Now, a subject that has to do with a more detailed aspect that you might in Italy very well known, like the wines in Amarone, is the compacticity of the clusters. Many of our wineries are dedicated to collect the most or the less compact clusters with best quality grapes. So far, everything was done using the eye, just the eye. But nowadays, we have the means to estimate objectively this parameter. And we have an algorithm allowing us to assess in a more robust and quick way the compactity of the cluster. Here you can see an example under laboratory conditions. We also took this to the field in order to use the sensorized mobile platform to get images and estimate compacticity of the cluster. I don't want to use any more time, just I would just like to thank Gianni and all of you for your kind attention. Here you can see our contact details in order to send us any commentaries or questions. Thank you so much.